The countdown is edging closer and closer. We are almost back to the world of Game of Thrones, of Westeros, and dragons, and Targaryens, and I don't know. We got some homework ahead of us, guys. We got to see if this series, House of the Dragon, in reference to the Targaryen house, will rectify the mistakes and the past sins of what's his name, Benioff, and other guy who brought me the
Oh,
disappointing season 8. Was it 8 seasons I've watched of that show?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, so much time, so much of my
I
time.
mean, it was dwindling before that, though.
Oh, I
But
know,
yeah.
I know, but I always held out hope that maybe one day it would get better. Perhaps there's a little spark of hope in me still that says they will do better this time. I don't know. Are you optimistic about this?
Um, I'm just trying to remain neutral. I don't, no. I'm lying. I don't think it's gonna be good. I'm
Yeah.
I'm all I'm all Game of Thrones out. I
Yeah,
was obsessed with it, and I was so excited to see where it went, and
in all
I was,
honesty, I'm kind of at the point where I might hate watch this.
yeah, that's how I
And
feel.
and you know what? You're welcome to do that with me, people watching, or you're here. You could watch. But it's like it's it's such a it's such a big ask right now to make me not only go back to that world where I was let down, but to now go back even further in time to a story that everybody talked about and was like, we're going to go, well, was that true or was that legend? And it's like, you know what? There were dragons. I already know most of this probably wasn't true, but it's,
You know what? Speaking of the dragons thing, I just realized the only reason they're probably only going with this story because it's the only other storyline in the Game of Thrones lore with dragons. Yeah,
right. Well,
I didn't.
as we said last week, it would be really interesting to take us into the same world, but take us to a different part of the country. We never saw like the analog of China. They had dragons in their culture in this world. Why not take us into something like that, and see other parts of the world? Because dragons
Well, wait,
wouldn't
aren't the
just be
Targaryens? Targaryens are the only people who were the dragon tamers,
in
weren't they?
in that part of the world. But it's
Did they
like,
specify that?
no, but it's open ended, and it's like they never went to these other places where who knows what the culture could be. And you could take the same type of writing and do that. But, it's yeah, I think in terms of like what people are most anticipating, the reason they did this is because they had a CGI budget and that's going to go toward some dragon stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know.
And
What's
everybody loves a Targaryen, so
I
maybe in
yeah,
guess.
I
their
think
mind, maybe.
sorry, I was just gonna say very because I have not got a lot of context to this because I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, but I was just gonna quickly add, I think the reason why they're pursuing this story in particular is, I don't know, maybe Catriona, this is where you were going too. It's the whole idea of, Daenerys was one of the most popular characters on the show, and people love dragons, and I think they just took that
Hmm.
and ran with it.
Why do you
Right.
think that was?
I
Well, I mean, it's also like in their minds righting a wrong that they wrote wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's like if you're gonna write that wrong, going backwards, going further back in time is not the way to do it. Um, that girl looks young. This
well, I
is
mean, the show's
Interesting
probably
comment.
meant to run for 8 seasons or something, so.
yeah, yeah.
In the books, Daenerys was only like what, 12, I think,
Is that right?
in the first when you're first introduced or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. It also like they're definitely mirroring a lot of characters that we already
Uh,
are familiar with.
I just remembered Matt Smith as the main guy.
That's probably the biggest reason I'm interested in this because I just like the actor Matt Smith, and I'm a fan of his version of Doctor Who. It's not like I'm picking between David Tennant and him. I just preferred
I
him.
know.
Like, if I had to, I guess I am picking. Never mind.
So I guess
And
the
yeah,
questions that I have here are like, are we going to see,
Oh, it's Jon Snow. Look at that.
that's the thing. It's like, are we going to see proto Starks? Are we going to
Oh, look,
see,
it's what's her face? The redhead daughter. What's her
yeah,
name?
Arya
Sansa?
Stark,
Sansa. Yeah, no, Sansa.
Sansa. Oh, yeah.
It's
See,
like
again,
that's what we're
novice.
seeing is like they're going to reinvent all of these other characters, that are going to
I
sort of
think
harken back to the ones that we already
right,
know.
and they're gonna just simplify it for people who couldn't follow Game of Thrones because it was very confusing for a lot of people with all those
Yeah, we're
different.
not we're not going to have
Is that
a
Nicolas
Tyrion.
Cage?
No,
Looks like it. We said this
no.
last week, but like, is there gonna be a Tyrion character, or somebody with that energy that they bring on, just so that we feel that because some of this, the idea behind a show like this is to get people interested in watching the original one again because that's still streaming on HBO Max if you want to go watch it. You know,
It's still a really great show. Like the first few seasons are
some of it,
really.
yeah.
What, you don't think so?
You
Oh, just
know,
like the later ones, right? Are bad, yeah.
I don't know. They if you know about the what the words red wedding mean.
Yeah, I
That
heard that there was a conspiracy fan theory that they thought the show was so bad, that's why they killed off everybody and just kind of started over.
you mean in
No,
After,
the
that
in the
happened in the
finale? Because
no the
we're huge spoilers, but I feel like it's years later already, so who cares? Um,
I'll put it up. There it is.
sure. Yeah, that red wedding man. I was in college at the time, and I was desperately trying to connect with my roommates and the people around me. And they said, "Let's watch this show," and so we did. And they all knew about the red wedding, and they just watched me watch it. And boy, what a night! I didn't sleep. It was I don't know. That was some of the better writing on the show is like how careless they could be with characters that you had an attachment to, and I thought that sort of
well, that's when they
savage.
were following the book. That's exactly what
Exactly,
happened. Yeah.
exactly. There's really no source material here to go from, and I don't know. I'm dubious. I don't really see this being fantastic. Do I hope it will right the wrongs? Yeah. Do I think it will? No.
And then it's like, well, how could it even? I'm wondering if that's their attempt. Like, what are they like? What angle are they trying to take? I
Yeah,
suppose.
you know what I would have appreciated more actually? Since the books have come out at this point, right?
I mean, not all of them.
Not all of
No.
them.
I mean,
Okay,
he's no, he's not.
here's how you really do it, guys. You get George R. R. Martin to finish the books, get them out there, and then instead of doing a prequel, redo the last two seasons. Set it
You
right.
they've been there's a petition going. There's been a petition for years for that.
Really? Yeah.
Reshooting like at least the final season. Yeah.
Yeah, send it over. I'll sign it. It's yeah. This
I if
in
they were gonna
addition
act on it, I
Drop a
think they would have
link.
done it by now. But
Yeah, I know. In addition to this being, a big ask for audiences who were let down, now we have it going up against some of the Lord of the Rings prequels that are also coming out. It's also in the spirit of all these Star Wars prequels that are coming out. Everybody's telling the story before their story right now, with bigger and better technology. And that always
yeah.
bugged me, by the way.
Well, I mean,
Just
Lord
as
of
a
the
side
Rings
note.
budget per episode is probably gonna be more than like Andor and like per episode budget of Andor and House of the Dragon combined. Like they're
Yeah.
spending like 60 million per. It's like insane. I personally
Yeah.
think Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, it looks better, it's shot better, and for somebody who, again, I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan guy either. If I had to pick between the two, just watching the marketing ahead of time, I'm leaning towards Lord of the Rings personally.
Interesting.
So
You
I am
know, yeah.
I was just gonna say I think I love Lord of the Rings more than Game of Thrones. So I'm sure I won't like this show as much, you know. I won't mind as much if the Game of Thrones show sucks
Do you
because I'm
guys think there's
already
going to be like this generational divide? Because a lot of the Lord of the Rings fans, I mean, I'm not saying we are old, but we are older than, say, let's say a lot of people who maybe started off in the fantasy genre with Game of Thrones. Whereas if you weren't, I mean, you can watch Lord of the Rings now, go back and watch the movies, watch The Hobbit, and enjoy it, become a fan, and read the books and all that. But if you were around, like when those movies were coming out, and you went to see them in theaters, and then you were reading the books and you were watching them win awards, you were, that kind of first-hand experience makes you a different kind of a deep, devoted fan, similar to maybe somebody who had that same experience with Game of Thrones during its original run. So do you think that there will be a generational divide between the audiences for those two shows?
no, because they're so different. I hope kids are not watching Game of Thrones. It's really not appropriate unless you're like, I don't know, 17. Maybe that's a little too old. But and there are people who didn't grow up with the original Star Wars when they were coming out, and those are everybody knows are the
That's the
better
thing.
ones.
Yeah, when the original sets a standard, like the Lord of the Rings, I don't see anybody remaking those movies.
Mm-mm.
They're
I hope not.
they're cultural touchstones. They did a good job with them. People love them, and people who care about, again, this is more of an advertisement to revisit those, if anything. And I think the only time where it's worth redoing something is something like Dune. You know, Dune has been done wrong so many times,
The first
and
one
now
was a
we're
disaster. I
now
mean,
we're at a
as much as I
point.
like Patrick Stewart and
Sure.
the talent was there, it just never came together. But I see your point. Yeah.
But when you get to a point where like we can tell this story and give it the treatment it deserves, then you do the best job you can do. You try to be as faithful to the book as you can, in my opinion, and you represent something that means a lot of people that means a lot to a lot of people, and you give it, you celebrate it, and that becomes the version of it. But I don't think we're gonna keep remaking Dune after this either, because they're putting a lot into it.
Well, I mean, I think everything eventually gets remade, but it will
You think they'll
probably be
remake
like a
the original three
lifetime.
Star Wars?
Will they reboot Star
Probably
Wars
one day.
eventually?
Oh, probably.
Probably. Yeah.
I
I
don't see
mean,
that happening.
just think about this, right? I don't, it's kind of weird because we live in a time where reboots are now more common than they were in the past. So I suppose it's hard for me to like lay out an example from the 60s. But even then, I suppose you could say Star Trek, for example, they had the original series and then they did the new movie series, which basically rebooted like from where the original series began. And that's probably the most standout example I can think of. But yeah, I mean, of course,
Psycho. They did it with Psycho.
Yeah,
that's a
but I
good one.
mean,
Yeah.
we're on top. We're talking
They've
about
rebooted
Star Wars,
Terminator
but
and failed five
like
times.
what George Lucas
Yeah.
has done generally is he's updated like the special effects,
Yeah.
so that it stays relevant. That's
But it can
something.
only stay relevant for so long, right? Like
I
I feel like
disagree. I disagree because that's the thing about those movies is they're timeless. So much of the stuff that comes out now is couched in, like we were talking about ads, is it's couched in the culture. And the charm of Star Wars, of Lord of the Rings, of Game of Thrones is it's not now.
right.
It's a story that's just it's self-contained, and
I think
that's
you put too much faith in people not wanting to make money.
that's
Because I'm sure
fair.
in a good 20 years or so, somebody's going to be like, "Hey, we should redo this." George Lucas did it to his own films over and over again.
That's interesting.
So
That's a good point.
I mean, I feel like if they do reboot it, what they're not going to do is do it as another series of like, well, as a series. I think they're going to reboot it as like a movie series where each book might become its own movie or two movies or whatever. Or like similar, for example, there have been rumors that uh, under the new Warner Brothers Discovery leadership, they've been talking to J.K. Rowling about doing TV series based on the Harry Potter franchise world, like the Wizarding World of
And
Harry Potter.
again,
So,
you wouldn't recast Harry Potter, but like
well, not yeah.
I would totally watch a show about wizards in that world at another school. Show me the American wizards for once. Show me the wizards because they exist.
The way
Right.
they did in the Fantastic
Well,
Beasts, right?
Yeah, no,
They're
was it Order of the
American.
Phoenix? Or was it Goblet
Order
of Fire? I think it was Goblet
I
of
forget.
Fire.
But again, show me other parts of that world at the same time so that they can reference things going on with Harry Potter and so it ties in as opposed to, predates.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
So,
the Fantastic Beasts does tie in, but anyway.
quick
I'm not-
question.
I'm not
Predates-
No, I
supporting-
see.
I'm not
I'm gonna
supporting
pose this
it.
question because we've been talking about this at length already, but I wanna kind of boil this whole conversation down to the show House of the Dragon drops in hours from now. So my question to you guys is, for somebody who like finds our video and they're like interested in the show, or at least they're intrigued by the idea of the show, what should they be looking for on tonight's premiere?
Not
A real-
Tyrion.
Yeah. Look for a real plot. Hope that it doesn't hinge too much on trying to tie in with this stuff. I mean, there's going to be a lot probably, but look for hints that this will stand on its own legs. That's another big ask for a prequel series. But if they do it right, it will.
Catriona?
Yeah, basically what Andrew said. Just look for something that is
Nailed
clearly
it.
not a it is a cash grab, but try to see through it. Try to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Well, as somebody who's a Game of Thrones novice, I would say this. They worked on another pilot before this series, and after the pilot was done, produced, and all the money that went into it, they canceled it. And then they were like, because they were working on like several different show ideas. Even now they're working on like a Jon Snow
They got a backup plan.
follow-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like the point I was trying to make is HBO is known for having strict quality standards and sort of sticking to them, right? So they canceled, like, I'm sure, an expensive pilot and said, we're going to change direction. And then this has made it all the way to getting a full season order. So I'd imagine they're confident in this, and just the fact that it is a Game of Thrones property, there's a lot of people out there who will tune in just because they're at the very least curious to see where this goes. So I might be one of those people, even though, like I said before, I haven't watched any Game of Thrones episodes in full ever. So I'll maybe give this a shot and see if it's worth following. I'm not a big fantasy guy. I'm like a sci-fi person. So
The
maybe that will
fantasy is
draw me away.
overshadowed by gratuitous sex and violence. So maybe you like that.
Hey, maybe that's what a lot of people will be tuning in to watch. They'll be like, oh, like, is there something saucy happening in the first
Well, that's
episode?
what
I
I'm
don't know.
wondering. Is it even going to be like that, or are they going to take it in a different?
I'm gonna go ahead and say probably.
Yeah. Let's be honest here. Come on.
It's
Like,
HBO.
Yeah, that's true.
We just said exactly. We're on the same page here. It's HBO. Yeah.
It's HBO, baby. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. We'll follow up with you, and you follow up with us. This is partly your deal. So make sure you do comment, like, subscribe, be our friend. We're on all the things. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and Twitch, and anywhere you get a podcast. Hang out with us, check in with us, see what we're up to. We're always making stuff.
Yeah, let us
Okay.
know what excites you about the show, or if you checked it out and you watched the first episode, leave a comment below. What did you think about it? We'd love to know.
Sounds good. Alrighty, on to the next thing.